Get ready for the worst of 1975. Okay, maybe not the worst. I haven't seen every movie of the year, and I don't typically watch movies that are clearly marked as garbage. Unless there's a lot of nudity promised. But the following is a list of the 5 movies that disappointed or frustrated me the most from this year. Warning, there will probably be some spoilers, since I figure these movies are rancid anyway, so what the hell.
Behold!
Okay, so first up, it's The Devil's Rain. Now, I talked about this in the May 1975 video. No one's going to claim that this is a great or even a good movie, but I thought it was worth a little more exploration into some of the details here, since it really is pretty bad. Even looking at just the first 10 minutes, there is no logic that holds the plot together, even moment to moment. Fine, we start in media res. Ida Lupino's at home, she's worried, there's a storm out. Her son, William Shatner, enters, says he can't find his father.
No sign of him.
Ida Lupino says, "But my dream."
I know your
Will you
dream.
listen to me? It's the same night
Night after night. Yes, I know that.
And then someone arrives outside, and it's his father.
Dad?
And his face is melting.
Oh my God.
Steve?
And he says some esoteric stuff,
Redstone. He's waiting for the book.
and then he melts right in front of him. And the family has this rather tepid reaction to what should be a shocking event.
Corbus has your father. It wasn't him, Mom.
And they pull this book out of some hidden compartment in the floor, and Lupino says,
Take the book to Corbus. It's the only way.
but Shatner says, "No, I'll do this my way." Mom is upset, but he exits. He sees a truck. He looks inside, and on the steering wheel he sees a kind of voodoo doll. And then, not 2 minutes have passed, and there's a brief ruckus in the house, and Shatner rushes back inside, and he finds his uncle tied up upside down and beaten. His mom has been abducted by some evil forces, and the book is gone. And Shatner gives a shout to the heavens that predicts his later Wrath of Khan delivery.
Corbus!
And he decides to look for Corbus. I mean, it's all just so disjointed and ridiculous. So I guess here's what really drives me crazy. And yes, I get it. I'm reading way too deep into a cheap 70s horror movie.
Let us behold the Father.
The main plot is cult leader Borgnine needs some magic book for whatever reason. And he has this vendetta against this family because they've hidden it from him for 300 years. But if he can just magically appear in the house, abduct the mom, take the book, then what the hell is the point of the rest of the story? And why is it taking him 300 years to do it?
Corbus!
Yes, there are some cool practical effects. But everything else is crap.
We must be doing something right.
Okay, Nashville. This may be a bit controversial. I'm sure there are some of you out there who might even put this in their top 5 movies of the year. However, I am not such a person. Nashville is a great big canvas of characters that more or less goes nowhere. Sure, there are some interesting moments, maybe even some interesting scenes. I think the opening 20 minutes is a pretty solid satiric intro for this setting and for this large cast of characters. But once they all ended up in this absurd pileup on the highway, I started to question the quality of what I was watching. There's a rule in screenwriting where each successive beat should arise from a but or a therefore. Well, Nashville is a 2.5-hour long series of and then. Or if you prefer your Shakespeare references, it's a tale told by a naturalist, full of song and sarcasm, and signifying nothing. Altman has consciously chosen to subvert expectations. The expectations that characters in a story will change and grow, or that their refusal to do so will result in negative consequences. No character has an arc here, but even within scenes there seems to be a conscious refusal to embrace any real sense of drama. 3 examples stand out for me. Lily Tomlin is a gospel singer, married with children, and she ends up having a sexual encounter with Keith Carradine's hippie rock and roller. We've already seen Carradine as quite the himbo, and we see that Tomlin is a rather loving woman who's been swept up by a sincere but unexpected passion. This circumstance sets up many potential dramatic directions, but all we see is Tomlin ready to go home after sex, Carradine, still in bed, makes a phone call to another woman in hearing distance as she gets dressed. He's literally setting up his next sexual tryst, and Tomlin has no reaction. And it's still unclear to me if she really doesn't hear the context or if she does hear it and decides not to confront him about it. Either way, it's a potential dramatic moment that's dead on arrival. Then take the waitress who wants to be a star.
Hi, y'all. My name's Suleen Gay.
She's offered a singing gig, but it's not for any interest in her vocal skills. She's instead persuaded to strip with the promise to sing alongside the big country star in town for a show. She feels horrible about it, and presumably used. Yet when her friend tells her the truth,
I've been meaning to tell you this for a long time. You can't sing.
she refuses to believe it, and somehow seems to forget the horrible experience she's just had.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But you can't sing. Do you understand that?
Yeah, you want to make a bet?
Again, potential dramatic moment, and it's discarded. And then there's Keenan Wynn's character, whose wife has been dying for the whole movie, and by the end, she has now died. And Shelley Duvall's seeming anorexic hippie chick doesn't care. And Wynn is devastated by this. He can't believe that his niece feels nothing for her dying aunt. So he's gonna give her what for, and he goes after her. Except after stating this, we never see either character again. Did I mention singing? There's a lot of it. And you get the sense that the songs are supposed to be lame and satirical, and maybe if someone is well versed in country and gospel music, he'll be able to distinguish that, but I'm unfamiliar with both, so to me it just sounds like crappy music.
We must be doing something right.
Nashville is not a poorly made film. I'm sure Altman made exactly the story he set out to make. It's in my bottom 5 because it's a string of anecdotes that don't add up to anything more than a satiric sense of America as it nears its 200th birthday, bolstered by the pompous mission of its director to rebel against storytelling as storytelling. Okay, 95% of you probably haven't heard of this next film. I hadn't heard of it myself up till a few months ago, but it's the story of Adele H. It's French, and it's based on the true story of Victor Hugo's daughter, Adele. Starring Isabelle Adjani and directed by Francois Truffaut, it wasn't quite as French as I feared. There is a plot here, though you may have to squint a bit. Adjani has fallen obsessively in love with a British lieutenant who has rejected her. She follows him across the Atlantic to a station in Canada, where she changes her name and attempts to manipulate, guilt, and buy her way into a marriage that he, clearly for good reason, wants no part of. Adjani is effective in her role. Some of her nightmares and emotional outbursts remind me of her performance in 1981's Possession. The problem is the role itself. I don't like her. I can't connect to her. Not to say I have to like a protagonist in order to appreciate a story, but there are certain character types. Quick tangent. The Enneagram is a personality typing system built around 9 types, each defined less by behavior and more by core fear and a core desire. The wound driving the person and the thing they're chasing to compensate for it. Type 1's fear being wrong and want to be good. Type 8's fear being controlled and want to be strong, and so on for 9 types. I've spent a fair amount of time running characters through this system, and I've noticed something about myself. I rarely connect with type 4's, core fear of having no identity of their own, core desire to be uniquely, irreplaceably special. And I don't connect with type 2's, core fear of being unloved, core desire to be needed, generally connected to chick flicks and melodramas. Adjani is a foreign freefall, obsessed not with the British officer, but with the feeling of being obsessed with the British officer, because belonging is her identity. Take it away, and there's nothing left. Anyway, that's me. And here again, we get no real climax or character arc. The British officer is transferred to Barbados, and Adjani again follows. But by the time he runs into her again, she is deranged, destitute, and wandering the streets in rags. She gets shipped back to France, and we learn in a postscript that she spends the next 50 years in a nut house. Here again, we have a naturalist story, where characters have drives, but we never get a sense of the why of those drives, and there is no chance for change or growth. Basically, it's a slog.
Where'd you get those beavers? Jeepers! Creepers! Where'd you get those?
Next worst is The Day of the Locust, directed by John Schlesinger. It's based on a novel from 1939 of the same name, and it takes place in 1930s Hollywood. William Atherton, the pompous EPA guy from Ghostbusters,
My name is Peck.
is an Ivy League artist who's come to Hollywood to become an art director. He quickly falls in love, or lust, with his wannabe actress neighbor, Karen Black. Like Nashville, most everyone here is chasing some kind of dream, though here it's the Hollywood kind. And I guess it also aspires to be a satire, though a bit on the nastier side. But again, there are no likable characters, nobody you'd want to identify with. In many ways, the characters here are even more grotesque.
You got what you wanted. What the hell do you want? She's a whore, Homer.
Okay, quick note. Do satires have to have likable characters? No, of course not. 2 of my favorites, Dr. Strangelove and Network, are populated almost entirely by unlikable people doing despicable things, and none of them have any kind of character arc. And yet I'm engaged and highly entertained through the whole movie. So, what's the difference? Well, partly, those movies are funny, and neither Nashville nor Locust can pass that smell test. But more than that, I think it's because these characters in the bottom 5 are not just unlikable, but they're weak. And the weakest, most grotesque of all is Donald Sutherland's meek accountant.
Homer Simpson. Thank you.
He too falls for Black, fawns over her, becomes something of a kowtowing servant, while she uses him for all he's worth.
Well, if there isn't any chocolate syrup, then I don't want any ice cream.
The plot settles into a kind of rivalry between him and Atherton, and it's all rather pathetic.
Toddy.
Don't call me Toddy.
Sorry.
Eventually, Black sleeps with one of the small-time drifters she's invited into Sutherland's home, and it breaks him completely.
Forgive me for harboring such unworthy thoughts, but sometimes I wish I could tear it all down.
Which brings us to the climax. Here again, we run into a story structure problem. The opening act leads us to believe that Atherton is our protagonist, but by the climax, he's been quietly shoved out of his own movie, and it's Sutherland's movie now. So there's a big crowd gathered for a movie premiere. Lots of excitement in the air, even some agitation. And Sutherland trudges through the crowd, a broken man, presumably leaving town for good. And this guy who's bottled up his frustration and anger through the whole movie, well, now he snaps because this annoying child actor keeps harassing him, and he just stomps him to death. The crowd then attacks him, tears him to pieces, and the fire breaks out, and it spreads to the chaos, and again, much sound and fury signifying little, apart from the underlying pretentious critique of the irrational American dream.
Who are you?
I used to be somebody else, but I traded him in.
And now we come to the worst movie in 1975, according to me, The Passenger, directed by Michelangelo Antonioni. Yes, it has much critical acclaim. Yes, it's starring Jack Nicholson. Yes, it has one of the most technically sophisticated one-shots in cinematic history. And it is perhaps for all of these reasons that I found it to be the most frustrating watch of the year. In some ways, this is a shitified version of North by Northwest.
I know, I look vaguely familiar.
The protagonist is mistaken for a spy-type character, and he's hunted by the bad guys. Sort of. Because there is nothing fun, exciting, entertaining, or even particularly interesting going on here at all. My guess is that was Antonioni's starting place.
Antonioni!
And from there, he decided to subvert the genre. Nicholson's a fairly successful investigative journalist, but he's having some difficulty finishing his latest assignment. He's in some out-of-the-way motel in some foreign country, and the guy in the next door room to him ends up dying from a heart attack. They have vaguely similar physical features, and so Nicholson decides, hey, I think I'll move his body into my room, take his passport, and take over his life. We eventually get the sense that Nicholson is dissatisfied with his life and with the failure of his marriage. But this is a bananas move to make. We should get a pretty damn good explanation as to why he does it, but we never do. Luckily for Nicholson's inability to make decisions for himself or pursue his own goals, the dead man had a notebook full of upcoming appointments across Europe. So Nicholson takes on the dead man's schedule, becomes its passenger, and he and we find out he is an arms dealer, selling guns to revolutionaries and terrorists, and he pretty quickly gets a payoff for it. But that's about as far as an actual plot goes here. Eventually, Nicholson runs into Maria Schneider,
Who are you?
and they start a kind of romance. He lets her in on his situation, and in the moments where he hesitates, she pushes him forward. That dead arms dealer believed in something. Isn't that what you want?
That's what you wanted, didn't you?
Apparently, the dead guy was an idealistic arms dealer. As we neared the end, I was truly hopeful that some meaningful reveal would occur. I was hoping that Schneider would turn out to be a name in his notebook, that they had not met by chance, that she had been pushing him forward for her own personal ends, that someone in this movie actually had some kind of honest intention. So when they end up in the isolated motel at the end, I was ready to give the movie some credit. But no, the climax was much worse than I could have expected. Nicholson's in bed with Schneider, and he tells this story about a blind man that I guess is meant to tell the moral of the story. Then Schneider exits the room, and Nicholson lies down for a little nap. And then we get that technically sophisticated one-shot that I mentioned earlier. The camera dollies forward slowly, ever so slowly, toward the barred window looking outside. And we see various things through the window, including Schneider walking around for no apparent reason, and then police arriving, etc. And the impressive thing is that the camera pushes through the bars, and it's then outside. And yes, it's technically impressive. And then we swing around, and Nicholson is now dead in bed for no apparent reason, at least not apparent to me. And his estranged wife is there, and she doesn't recognize him, and credits. What? What the bloody hell was that? I mean, this was a really long, slow shot. And look, if it reveals something amazing, if the technical sophistication really is needed to communicate something that valuable, great, I'm all for it. But this, like most of the movie, is just pretension dressed up as profundity to make some half-ass point about alienation. And it irritated me. So that's it. That's my bottom 5 for 1975. If you'd like to see the movies that I do recommend from the year, check out my overall 1975 video linked below. And be sure to subscribe if you want more old reviews and recommendations year by year like this. Bye-bye.